This is day 312 of Zohar Pshat, and we are on Daf Lamed Dal Amud Bey. Is the second to last line. Tu Amar B'Shimon, Ksiv, Chos Yerusad Temia Ba'aretz, enemy bushes of the field would not yet exist in the land. Chayitz Yerusad Temia Tzmach, all grass of the field had not yet grown. Kiluim Tir Shem Elkim Al Aretz, there was not yet any rain. Chos Yerusad the Elin Elon Rav Irin. These are the Siach Sadeh as opposed to Esav. Which is grasses. The Sadeh, these are great trees. Lintil Basar, which will be planted later on. Havu Zehirin. So the Sulam's Girsa here is not Zehirin with a hay, but Zehirin with an ayin. They were small. In other words, it's not they didn't exist at all, but they were small. This big, these great trees, which required further, I guess, assistance. And later on, of course, we know other missions put in Ganein La'avdol Shamra. At this point, they were Zehirin. They were small. And the Sulam says we'll come back later on, and I trust him. I haven't learned it further on, but that to describe in detail these trees. In the meantime, we go back to Adam Chava. Tocha say Adam Chava, da besitra da these beer. They were created either side to side or back to front. I think it's back to front. It's the opposite sides. And the question is why? My time was amping bumping. Why are they created face to face? So, in order to explain this, we have to talk about the Kruvim. The Kruvim we know had this unique quality to them. Nefesh Chaim speaks about great length. Chazal speaks about great length. When we saw Osim and Son Shemakom, the Kruvim faced each other. When Ein Osim and Son Shemakom, they faced away from each other. And there are all sorts of various angles which they face depending on how connected and how much in sync Am Yisrael and our Kodesh Baruch Hu. So the same thing with Adam Chava. Adam and Chava were created in a situation where they're opposite to each other because at that point they did not have the proper connection, affinity to face each other, which would of course be what they could do once they separated from each other. And that's going to explain the Ksiv Kiloim Tir Shem Elkim Al Aretz. The Hashem did not yet cause the rain to fall on the ground. Not a literal rain here, but rather what's the connection between Shamayim and Oretz, which will allow the connection between Or and Chava to be appropriate. At this point, the zivu could not be appropriate. They had to be male and female because somehow or another they would, the world would have to procreate. There'd have to be continuity. But the zivu would not be appropriate at this point because they had not the tools, which in essence, in order to the zibuk to be yofe, so to speak. And that only came later on when they were given the tools of the mitzvah and avera of la'avda l'shamra in Gan Eden. Then they were given the capacity to be zochu ish v'isha shechina shuv b'neim. The shechina could only be connected. The zibuk could only be yofe when, and they could face each other face to face when they had the tools. Not at this point, the tools were not there yet. So therefore, kadistakinu hai the sata. When things became fixed down here below, the mother of the Kodesh Baruch Hu provides here the rain is symbolic of the shefa which comes from above, which allows Adam Rishon and Chava to function properly in this world. So hide the sata beast haju ampin ba'anpin, but then they could then face each other kidei shlachak le'ela. Then it's found as it's found on high. In other words, that the connection down below would then arouse the connection on high. Kodesh Baruch Hu gives them the capacity, the tools, they connect, and then there's a zibuk tachton, shin Chava, and a zibuk elyon, so to speak, between Kodesh Baruch Hu and the Bria. Minolan ha'inashumin ha'mishkan, the zibuk kam ha'mishkan. The Mishkan was set up. What do you mean, hukam ha'mishkan? Sounds like I forget the exact version of the pasuk, but Hukam HaMishkan sounds like when they set up the Mishkan was set up. What do you mean? They set up the Mishkan. Of course the Mishkan was set up. No, it's another Mishkan set up. Because the Mishkan Achrei Takami Mei. Another Mishkan was set up with it. The Mishkan on high. When the Mishkan below is functioning properly, the Mishkan on high works properly as well. Before the Mishkan below is set up properly, then the Mishkan on high lo yitakem ela. Afacha kad yitakem letata, when the zivug between Adam and Chava was able to be put into place properly, which was not able to be put in place until after they were separated and given the tools they were given in Gan Eden. So then they were able to be panim el panim, and the zivug on high be able to take place as well. It took him the Layla that begin the Akan Lois Takan Ela, and since now they could not, it wasn't fixed on high because they weren't able to fix it below because they didn't have the tools with which to work. Lo ispiriu anpin ba'anpin, and they were not created face to face. The pasuk indicates that there was no the tools in order that they need in order to function were not there yet. Therefore, Adam was lacking. It says Adam ayin lo avodas adama. So the pasuk is there was no Adam yet, but he's saying no Adam was nothing. Adam was the state of nothingness because he didn't have the tools which he needed. So the lo hava b'tikune, he wasn't in his proper tikkun. When he was mishtalim, when he was putting Gan Eden, lo avda l'shamra, then ishtalim Adam. Konakein lo ishtalim, and before that wasn't complete. And now the Zohar is going to say, "B'roza the adkan lo isamach b'parshas." This parsha, so the discussion here means it's the beginning of Bereshis, which really can't mean because it says word sovev twice beforehand, so there is a samach beforehand. So parshas it means the parsha of Gan Eden, like the Tutsi Oro says. There's no samach prior to this. Why is no samach prior to this? Because there's no wholeness. By his gorba tachtena at this point, when Chava separated and others given putting Gan Eden, love the Shamra. Now there comes this unity, and there comes the samach in the parsha. V'afagav the chavraya amru. It's not clear what exactly a girsa is. He could be. You know what? This is not clear. Let's see if it's for tomorrow. V'afagav the chavraya amru.